Probably the last COVID project of 2020. I've drained my pool. Let me go widescreen. I've drained my pool and I'm going to paint it. So I've already did a little acid wash. It's where you take muriatic acid and scrub the sides of the wall. I've hosed it down. I swept it a few times. I gotta vacuum that last little debris. And then I'm going to paint. Now, this was the hard part. Getting the pool paint, hard to find. Nobody had it. Home Depot had it. I wanted 5 gallons. But they only had it in 1 gallon. Paint is $48 a gallon, so it's not cheap. I got 5 gallons of $247. They only have one color, ocean blue. I mean, it is even kind of hard to find online on Amazon. Gonna cut the trim. So right now I'm just gonna cut all along that rock line. That sun is blaring. All along the rock line, all along under the tile, cut all my trim, and then I'm probably going to spray the rest. It is December 9th, 2020. Okay, my daughter
Hello.
wants to help me paint the pool. Of all my kids, it's always my daughter. She wants to be with Daddy.
Hello.
So I'm going to let her record this so I can teach her how to paint, because these painting techniques work everywhere. So we're cutting the edge. You're going to need a wet cloth. There's Debate, which is easier to tape your lines or to paint them freehand. I prefer freehand.
Daddy, are you going to do the whole pool
Yes, we're going to do the whole pool.
today?
No.
'Cause I feel like it will take weeks.
I prefer freehand, so I'm going to teach her some techniques on how to do freehand. The reason why I prefer it is because you just waste money on tape. You got to go back and clean anyways. And you just save a lot of time. You don't have to do all that taping and prepping. So here.
Okay.
So I use an edge tool. So the way this works, it's just what you think. You put the tool along your edge, and then you can just paint. And you can move the tool as needed. And then that's the finished product.
Too pretty.
It leaves a real fresh edge. Now another way of doing it, you dip your paint. I always knock off one side of paint but leave the top. And then you take your brush and you want your brush to go diagonally like this, and then you just slowly work along your line. And this is how a lot of pros do it. And if you get real close, you can see the paint starts to fill in to the crack. And you just have a lot of control. And then you can go back and kind of brush down any excess. Clean up your little missed line. So with the edging tool, it's a little faster, but with practice, you can get very precise with the brush. And I'm using it, just a cheap brush, to cut my line. And you knock off your excess and you just dip again and cut the line. So I'll show again. I knock off the bottom so I have a lot of paint on top. The edging tool, you put it right along your edge. You can go fairly fast if you have excess. Over here. Over here. If you have excess, just wipe it off. It's a fairly fast line without masking.
Daddy, do I follow the brush?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, I dip my paint. I like it on the top. And I'm going to freehand this. And then after I've cut the line, I'm going to spray the pool. And I like spraying because it lays down a real thick coat. And it's a pool, so it's really textured. But I want to get far enough away from my edge where I can spray without spraying the tile. So that's how you freehand cut the line without taping off. Okay, so I'm going to show, that's the edge so far. I'm going to show one other technique on how to paint the edge. But I highly recommend not taping your edges to learn to control your brush better, because it's just going to save you a lot of time. The only time I use tape is if I'm mid-wall and I want a real straight line. Take the phone. Alright, so come up here so you can get closer. Alright, on my brush. Follow my brush. So what I do is I dip the paint and knock off the bottom part. But I want a little bit of paint here. And so this other technique is you go from the front instead of the back. So you take just the front of the brush and go along your lines. And then what I showed you before is you hold the brush down and then you can make longer sweeps. And then you go back and knock off the excess, any drifts or anything like that, and then reload your brush. So I'll show it again. Over here. So you go along the front. And you go back through and knock off your excess. Okay, I got a brand new toy. Tool. I got the Magnum paint sprayer. Project Painter Plus is $269 at Lowe's. Gonna spray this pool. I've never used it before. Kind of got an idea. I've used other paint guns before. So yeah, let me get something to set the camera up on and we'll try to figure it out. Okay, so typically with these guns, this is your drain tube, the little one, and it usually goes into a waste bucket, which would be a 5-gallon bucket, and then you have your paint line. Which has your gun on the end of it. And let's set that to the side. So this is your pickup tube. You can always tell because it has a screen. This goes in your paint bucket. And you have to prime a gun. And you probably, on the first time, should run some water through it, but kind of in a hurry, so I don't want to do all that. So your paint you want right here in this little cubby hole. Stick your tube down in there. Here's your drain tube. Stick that in there. I'm going to plug the little sucker in. Alright, so there's the on and off switch. There's the start. This is your pressure. It goes high to low. But to start, you want to start it there. And then you have a your priming switch. So you want to flip it up. So there's A on. You'll see the paint come through, and you'll see it go through the drain line. And once that's done, you click the prime button down and it should prime your gun. And once it shuts off, that means the gun is primed. Okay. So it's really simple. Turn it on, put it to start. You can adjust your flow, but I don't know how much flow is going to come out of it in the first place. This is your paint nozzle. Alright, so these paint nozzles are universal. There's a trigger lock. You can flip. If you get a clog, that's your spray end. If you get a clog, you would flip it around to blow out the clog. Anyways, you should blast them in the bucket. Yeah, this is horizontal. So if you want vertical, you flip it the other way. Wow, right out of the box. Pretty good flow. So I'll show you on the wall how it works. Alright, so you may not be able to see this, but I'm getting a little splatter. I'm getting kind of 2 streaks on the end of the fantail, so I'm going to turn up the pressure. Yeah, that's better. So you kind of want it to fade. So if you don't have enough pressure, it'll look like this. You see those lines there? You definitely don't want these 2 lines. So you turn up the pressure to get more even even spray. You should get more of a, yeah, like that, where you get it kind of faded at the ends, because you 50% overlap. Right? All right, well, now that we got the brush settled, new. I bought the gun because I kind of have a rule: if you have to ask your friends to borrow their tools more than twice, you should probably buy it yourself. And that's been the case with the paint gun. I got a friend of mine that, my father-in-law, I'm always borrowing their paint guns. And I'll know I'll get my money out of it, so I'm not too worried about it. This one, I don't know, this hose a little bit. Alright, let's go to town. About a gun is it lays on real thick. You can actually one coat. You don't have to go back through. And it's really fast. And I mean, you can. It's laying down a lot of paint. If you were to touch it, it would be thick. I just want to get this light out of the way. All right. So there's my youngest photobombing and finally helping out with his big paintbrush. All right, a handy tool to have is the paint opener tool, because it helps you get, like, got a piece of hair here. And you can just flick it out. I am going to put on a mask because it's getting kind of thick. You don't want to breathe paint. It's horrible. It gets in your bloodstream. Even latex paint. A lot of guys, they're painting a room. If you're rolling it, that's one thing. But when you're spraying, you're aerosoling it. It just makes it that much more toxic. So you want to wear a mask. Even though I'm outdoors, I'm going to wear a mask. Alright, now that I got my mask on, you're not going to be able to hear me, so I'm just going to spray.
came home, opened the garage door, and Coco cut out.
I did it.
How was your try?
You let her out. You go get her.
I can't get her.
All right. Well, you can see I did a wall fairly quickly.
Mommy, step away from the line.
I think spraying is by far the most efficient way of painting because when you roll, you waste a lot of paint in the pan, in the roller. And let me show you real quick. I've used about half a gallon, and done about that much so far. So the wife came home. I gotta go chase down the dog, but you get the idea. Okay, I just emptied the gallon. That's about how much coverage I have. They say that a pool this size, let me just spin around. And I know you can't get a great idea about how big this pool is. It's about a medium-sized pool. It's 32 feet long, 12 feet wide, roughly 20,000 gallons. 7 feet deep at the bottom, 4 feet deep mostly throughout. And I've got the jacuzzi over there as well, but the jacuzzi needs some patching and repairing, so I'm going to do that before I paint it. But they say a pool about this size takes about 4 gallons. Yeah, I can see that. That's 1 gallon. You can probably see I didn't take it all the way up to the rock or to the line. That's because I'm going to cut it like I did over here by hand. So yeah, the gallon's done. And when you run out of paint, the machine will make this sound. And that tells you it's time to get more paint. So what you're going to want to do is on your next gallon, you're going to pour that excess into that and then just continue going. So yeah, I think that's pretty good coverage. I mean, that's probably like, you know, rough guess, I'd say that's probably like 300 square feet, 220, 300. So you're getting almost max gallon coverage with a spray gun. Yeah, they're worth the money. It was $269, a little under $300. That brand comes highly recommended. It's what they sell at Home Depot, at all your big box stores, Lowe's. That's the lowest, that's the entry level. It's more than enough for most people, unless you're painting houses for a living. It'll be a perfect add-on to your tool collection. Yeah. The thing about paint guns is really clean up, clean up, clean up. So when you're done, you want to make sure you get all the paint out. You're going to spray out the paint either back into the can, or if you're done, into a waste bucket, and then you hook up a garden hose and flush it out really good. Get all your pieces clean. They say like 20 to 60 seconds. I do it more like 10 minutes worth of flushing. Maybe 5 minutes worth of flushing. But you really, if you flush it good and clean it good, you'll have the gun forever. And they're so worth the investment. That's why I really had no problem throwing down the money. All right, I guess I'll finish spraying off the rest of the pool. Okay, so here's the finished pool. I think it came out really nice. It's a lot brighter and cleaner. It gives it a fresher look. Now I need to clean all that calcium off the side of the walls.